Hey legends, and welcome back to the most tourist-farteny sim racing channel. What an insane Nürburgring 24-hour race we just had. The N24 is my favorite race event in the world, and this year I was absolutely glued to the TV watching the live stream from the Grello Manthey Racing Porsche as Kevin Estre redefined what my mind thought was possible to do with a GT3 car. That said, endurance racing is of course a team event, and everyone involved from management through to the pit crew and drivers are all equally entitled to share in the big win. Even though the event was red flagged through the night and we barely even got to see 50% of the full race, I feel like all the action from the 24 hours was packed into half the time for us. It was one of my absolute favorite N24s ever, and I strongly suggest you check it out if you haven't already. In order to celebrate Manthey's win, we're of course here to live out this channel's storied tradition of doing a compacted 24 hours and 24 minutes of Nürburgring race. While this is consistently not the biggest hit on the view counter, it's one of my absolute favorite types of videos to make because I love both this track and event so much. So without further ado, be sure to hit that sub to keep up with future sim racing emulates real life events, and let's get to it. Green, 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 here we go for the 2021 N24 in 24 minutes. One of this channel's least popular video types, but still one of my very favorites, as I try my very best not to dive down the inside and take the entire field in one go. Well, I half succeed. Somehow there's a BMW M2 CS mixed up in the GT3 grid. How that happened, don't ask me. Very nice looking car though, don't you think? As we blow past it with pretty much twice the horsepower, following the Ferrari 488 very, very closely, we get to enjoy, of course, the PBR shaded version as the 488 spins out along with one of the cars out in front. Now somehow there's an Alpine GT4 car mixed up in the grid as well as we quickly close on it. Not sure what happened in qualifying there, probably just as much a disaster as the real life race, though sans the rain it would appear. Now I've created a situation where there's about a 50% chance of rain here overcast over the course of the whole weekend, of course, just like real life, so we'll see what happens. As we're already in 8th position, having started somewhere around 18th. So far so good. The GP circuit has been very kind to us, as it always is to the 911s. Keeping up very, very well with the Boatley there. Perhaps unsurprising. Seems like there's a convoy already forming with first and second out up ahead, but we still have a chance. We haven't fallen too far behind. Luckily, the concrete curbs of death taken out as the AMG spins out and slows down our Boatley friend there. We've gained 3 positions out of that. Can't complain about that. As we start to rapidly make ground on the 488 in front of us. Now we have 24 minutes to go. That means roughly about 3 laps of the entire 24-hour layout of the Nürburgring. Usually this extrapolates closer to about 25, 26 minutes overall, but we'll see how we go. We should have the fuel to make it count. As we ride the curbs very aggressively, trying to do justice to our man Kevin Estre. Me praying to be 1/16th the driver in the virtual world. As we come up to Flugplatz, of course, just a very slight lift in the Porsche. Barely even lifting off the throttle to get that rotation, that pendulum from the rear engine. The moment that rear engine lifts up, you pretty much get a burst of oversteer on this car. It can be very, very precarious if you're not ready for it, especially with low fuel load. And one thing you'll realize is as we empty out that fuel, as we burn it off towards the end of the race, the car's going to get more and more twitchy on us. One of the few cars you actually prefer to drive with a full fuel load. As we're consistently making ground on this 488, the AI of course set to a reasonably high level of 105. High enough to give my meager skill level a run for its money. We drop a gear of course. Coming up into Adenauer Forst. Unfortunately, we overshoot ever so slightly. The car is of course an off-road machine as I mount the inside curb. To no big disadvantage. Hopefully you can appreciate me finding the Manthey Racing livery for our beautiful 911 here. This has got to be one of the most iconic liveries on a race car of all time. And props to them. I mean, it's extremely high vis. In terms of a pragmatic perspective, you're never going to miss that paint job in the dead of night. It's essentially like having reflectors over the entire car. As we make our way to the front of the field, rapidly catching everyone. I believe it's an AMG leading us, yes. A nice carbon grey AMG, as we just ever so lightly love tap the 488 on the rear. This version of the Nordschleife is still, of course, being my very favourite in all of sim racing. There's one thing that Studio 397 and rFactor do immaculately well, in my opinion, better than any other sim racing developer, is craft laser scan tracks. I mean, it's insane the level of micro detail you get. And it adds so much to the sense of immersion, as you're going to see the race beginning in the mid-afternoon, just like the real race, 3:30 p.m. Now with 60 times time compression, you're going to see the sun start to go down midway through our lap, as we'll start to race throughout the night for lap 2. Then eventually for a glorious sunrise and mid-afternoon finish on the Sunday. As I do what I can to get past this 488 here, I'm trying to wiggle my way through. I'm no Kevin Estra, but I'm trying for the aggressive moves as I push in on the inside. We go side by side, and I haven't given him quite enough space, and unfortunately, we're having a sim racing moment here, ladies and gents, as I just get absolutely bumper card out. Now, not entirely his fault there. I definitely should have provided a little bit more space, but I think in real life, somebody in that position probably would have backed out a little bit more. But it is what it is. Very aggressive AI here in rFactor 2, as I lose a position, unfortunately, to the Bentley. And we've got a bit more work ahead of us. I'll have to snake my way back towards the front of the field yet again. I've reappropriated the old endurance racing setup that my team, Butler Powell Motorsport, used in the first 24-hour race of Nürburgring held by Studio 397. It was an amazing event, and actually my first proper online race. What a way to start racing online, really, in a legitimate 24-hour race with 4 other drivers sharing the same car. We head down through Whipperman now. Absolutely love Sector 3 of this track, as night falls very rapidly, of course, because of that 60 times time compression. Sunset is a meager couple of seconds. The car really hooks in. I mean, it's really just built for this track, isn't it? Getting just the perfect amount of oversteer there. We have an AMG that's slightly fallen behind, dropping back and now holding up and creating a train with the 488 in front of us, as we start to race into the dead of night. Something that did not happen in the recent N24 race, unfortunately, due to adverse weather, insane fog, some pretty epic rain. Red flag was probably sensible, but no such hang-ups in sim racing. We race through hell or high water, even though the weather conditions are pretty much perfect currently. As I push to keep up with the 488, the 911 is so agile through here. The key, of course, to get on the final straight so you can take them at Tiergarten. I'll do my very best to keep up here through the final corner when we get onto the massive straight. Slight lift, pivot the car in. I got on the power ever so slightly too early, of course, dealing with dirty air from the car in front of me, pushing me out, but I think we're well in the slipstream. We're definitely going to be getting the tow here in this very, very wide 488. We're already starting to catch it. We've got the run. We move to the right. He tries to squeeze us wide, to no avail. He's still got the slipstream from the AMG in front of him, but again, to no avail. As we push in, cut it off, continue on. What a very interesting livery that is. Oh, as we brake hard, almost lose the rear end of the car. The Porsche is so squirrely when the airflow is disrupted. The Ferrari pushing through on the inside there. I've got to say, this is one of the more aggressive AIs I've encountered in recent times. Maybe not the kind of conservative spirit you would want for a 24-hour endurance race, but it is what it is. As we come up to the GP circuit in the dead of night, Taking T1 very aggressively. Very glad there's no undercarriage damage because that could have been the end of our car right there. I don't think the front splitter would have survived that. Of course, the GP circuit being very kind to the 911 as the AMG spins out on us. Oh no, rear-ending the 488. I really wonder what's going through that fella's mind right now. Perhaps an AM driver. AM drivers for the AM. We push hard through the hairpin, coming up to the Schumacher S. We're not too far off the front of the field all the same. They must have had some hold-ups. We have been racing hard after all. That very, very exuberantly lit up Ferris wheel there. Taking the curb hard, something you can always count on R-Factor to allow you to do. Pretty much like the man himself, Kevin Estre, did in the real world. Once again, catching the 488 well in the slipstream. I try to take the inside here a little bit too aggressively. We push him out wide. He pushes us back, but we've got the position this time. I think that level of aggression was called for. The 488 was really getting a bit too big for his britches. Time to push hard. Did not want to lose any more time here on lap 2. Only 2 more laps to go. Got 32 liters left in the fuel load. I'm intending to push hard through the dead of night here through sector 1 to catch the front of the field as much as I possibly can. Again, taking the curb very, very hard. The track very, very well rubbered in. Tons and tons of grip. Start to close on the front of the pack. Once again, coming up to Flugplatz, of course, ever so slight lift as we oversteer. Almost go too wide, almost go on the grass, which would have been the end of us, surely. I bounced off the inside curb there. Just it shows you how dangerous this race actually is. If you did that in real life, that would be a potential disaster. The curbs can absolutely pinball a car through here. We make up a lot of time there through Schwedenkreuz. It's definitely one of 911's favored sectors. Luckily, I do have the AMG holding up the field in front of me. For some reason, the AMG just isn't all that speedy through here. In real life, of course, it was the Rower M6 that was giving the Manti a run for its money as we approach the M6 GT3 in front of us with the stock manufacturer livery. The M-Power livery. One of my people now. Apparently become one of those BMW guys, though I do maintain that I occasionally do use the indicator stalk. Occasionally. When I feel like it. As we push on the inside, I can't say I'm being too kind. I'm trying to do my best Kevin Estre impersonation. Now, unfortunately, the AI isn't so kind to that kind of driving here in the virtual world. They're less risk-averse, I would say. We push on ahead, still making very, very good time here. Catching the AMG like it's nothing. Slowing down for the slowest corner on the track, of course. Still not dropping back to first, because the gearing in the Porsche will not allow it. Second is as low as we go. Push down to third here. Section which actually has a speed limit now on Heusinkveld days, which is very interesting. Many of the onboards that you see in Heusinkveld days are ominously absent from that section of track. I wonder why. We push on ahead. We did not get the run through here, unfortunately. Trying to get a good exit through here. Oh, unfortunately, we burn it all off as the rear spins out on us. R-Factor, of course, very, very sensitive to throttle input. With us only running a meager 1 traction control as well. We're well in the slipstream again, not losing any time. AMG is just struggling, just not able to make up the distance. Seems to lack the grunts here as we drop a gear, push on through and we can see the first rays of the sun starting to come up over the horizon there. It's going to be a very, very rapid sunrise. Game tells us there are 10 minutes remaining as I make a tremendous mistake and get knocked out of the carousel. Definitely not my finest moment. Still pushing on ahead, it's not a disaster. The race is not lost. We push on into Sector 3, my favorite part of the entire track and arguably the most challenging to drive. Probably one of my favorite sections of the entire track through here as I go slightly wider than I intended to, but grabbing a healthy ton of the inside curb there to make up for it. So much mechanical and aerodynamic grip on this Porsche. It's an absolute joy to drive in this section. Start to catch up to the Boatley, which kind of has no chance in such a twisty, agile section of the track. The Bentley, of course, being a straight line monster. And the AMG struggling inexplicably. But I push on ahead and really appreciate the stark difference in size between the AMG and the Bentley. Amazing to think that they can actually race as the same class of car. We really start to make up the gap here. I'm confident I'll be able to get the slipstream. When it comes to the final straight, of course, I have my sights set on a P1 come lap 3 if all goes according to plan. As we push hard, yet sensibly. Good run out. Can't ask for much more than that. Unfortunately, I got on the power again a little too early. Understeered out just a little bit. But we're still close enough to be in the slipstream. I'm hoping for the best now. I know this isn't the 911 strength. The Bentley's probably going to have us on straight line speed, but we're going to do our best all the same. Already starting to make up ground on the AMG. Pushing hard with the Bentley. Checking behind us, of course, see if anyone's going to make a move. Bentley gives up on the run. Very passive driving there as the AMG tries to squeeze us. Oh, would we beat Kevin Estre if we weren't doing a pass on the grass? Absolutely insane pass on the outside, but I think we're going too wide into this. The S's, yes, the AMG pushes in on the inside. We lose the position as I brake super hard to not rear into the back of the AMG. All good though, we made one position in that run. Can't argue with that. We're very, very tight with the AMG. We have an entire 8:21.34. We have an entire 8.5 minute lap to catch up to the AMG, so we should be okay, all things considered. Trying not to dive bomb him here. Be too easy. Try to overslow here. I recall Kevin was taking a very tight line through here, maybe to avoid the rubbered in line on the outside, which got slick and oily in the wet conditions. That line, of course, not working out too well for me here. Oh, as I almost spin out here. Really losing the rear end. Now you can really tell that the balance of the Porsche is changing. Now my fuel load is emptying out. The fuel tank in this car, of course, being in the front. So the more you empty it out, the more the car lifts, the more strange the weight balance becomes. Again, the AMG cannot escape us. We're just driving way too tightly here. Oh, as we push on the inside, we can't quite make the move stick, but it was a good trial. Oh, as we ever so slightly tap the AMG and lose the rear ends again. Definitely not my finest moment, but I've got to say that this AI gets very overzealous with the braking. It's a very, very strange place to brake that hard, but it is what it is. We'll deal with it. Luckily, no rain so far. Haven't had to pit for wets. Hasn't been a complete disaster weather-wise like the real race was. As I'm just rapidly losing the rear end of the car, it seems like these super softs that I'm on are very, very much just losing their sweet spot. I'm having to really readjust how I drive the car. This lap feels completely different to the first two. We push hard again through section 1. I'm trying to make up as much ground as I can. I know there are going to be moments, there are going to be opportunities to overtake. 5 minutes remaining on the clock, which of course means this lap and this lap only. Pushing through fluke plots without too much issue again. Chugging along in our gorgeous fluoro lime and fluoro yellow livery. I'm so glad I managed to find. A stark contrast to the AMG's seeming carbon grey, matte grey, something grey. Very cool looking. Yet very slow all the same. The AMG is really struggling here. Just does not have the agility of the 911 through this section. And now force gets completely carved up by the 911 as we do another pass on the grass on the inside, of course. As we start to push through, but I don't think we're going to make it. Just ever so slightly lift off. We got the inside, but we get tapped. We've lost the rear end. We take a little detour through the grass. Taking the lawnmower line, we lose 2 positions in that scuffle there. Now, I am not thrilled about that. AMG not very sportsmanlike in its conduct there. I've got to say this AI is very, very bitter. Not very happy about being overtaken. Not very gracious in defeat. We get stuck behind our old friend the 48 again. I'm seeing what I can do, whether I have enough time to make up the gap. We get a very, very good run here. We're well in the slipstream again. I don't get the inside. Ferrari just takes its line. Punches me across the track. I love tap it ever so slightly here. Unfortunately, I lose the run. But we go too wide. Coming into sector 2. Again, well in the slipstream here. I'm pushing hard, but he's just not letting me through. With the M6 GT3 set behind us. Pushing it on the inside again. Very nice move. Going to try and leave more room on the inside for the 48 this time. And I think we may have made it stick this time. Yes. Yes. Second time's the charm. A lot cleaner. As I have approximately 1.5 sectors left to close the gap with first and second. We're currently vying for the podium positions. I'm in third. As I completely masticate that, I hit the bump the wrong way, leading into the carousel, shoot out of it. And we unfortunately lose a dire amount of time to the cars in front of us. I'll give it my best all the same, but I'm not optimistic at this point. I know I need to give it the run of my life. I know I need to just push in order to make this work. I'll do my very best, shifting up to 5th here, coming up to Whipperman. Car goes wide, unfortunately I've over pushed on the entry. Game tells us there's 1 minute remaining. Pushing downhill now. This is where it's make or break. It's all or nothing. Beautifully cambered turns through here as we approach YouTube corner. Still a reasonable amount of mechanical grip in these tyres. Our factory, of course, always communicating everything that's happening underneath the front axle. Much more so than my new road car, that's for sure. And we're making up time, but are we making up enough time? There's not very much track left for us. Had I not just shot out of the carousel, what could have happened here? Dropping 2 gears, very aggressive through here. Drop another gear, push in on the inside, maximize the track, use the exit curb. Take the carousel, I think that's the name. As we lose traction on the exit. That could have been a deadly mistake here. As it looks like we're just going to be outside the slipstream coming up onto the final straight. Had the 2 carousels gone better, what could we have done here, guys? Still, it's not all over as we push down the final straight. We're trying to make it count as we come up to the mid to late afternoon, the finish of the Nürburgring 24 hours and 24 minutes, the 2021 edition. As it seems like, yes, we're just outside that crucial slipstream there. We're going to push as hard as we can through the S's here after Tiergarten, but I don't think we have a chance. Making up a lot of ground through here, just like Kevin did in real life. The Porsche is absolutely monstrous through that section. Love tapping the curb to keep the car in as we come in. Oh, unfortunately, 3rd place. We just hit the podium, but missed out on pole position. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that Nürburgring 24 hours and 24 minutes. One of my favorite events to record for this channel. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to smash that sub as I smashed that 48 right there. Make sure to check out the link down below to see the full race in case you missed it. Make sure to check out the Manthey Racing onboard if there's a replay on YouTube. Kevin Estre's stints were some of the best examples of GT driving I've ever seen in my life, and it's definitely not something you want to sleep on.